This chapter is all about creating the different floors in our model, and specifically it deals with working with textures and working with textures on floors. I'm going to show you a couple tools that you can use when working with textures on the floor, as well as a great tool that gives you the area calculations for any floor. We have our model here. We have the layer states of the first and second floor, and we also have these selected as separate groups. Let's go ahead and click on the first floor, and let's divide the living room from the dining room from the kitchen. We're going to divide all 3 floor spaces, as well as the foyer, the bathroom, and the closet. To do that, take the select tool, double click on the face of your group here. That way you're inside the first floor. Good way that I always like to double check is when you double click to select, after you double click, just select again, and you'll be able to click on the face. And that really just lets you know you're exactly on that face. Let's orbit. And let's take the line tool and just draw a line from this edge here to this edge. That's going to separate that face. It will close in this rectangle here. And to delete that, just take the select tool, select it, and press delete. You'll notice now it does separate those 2 edges. While we're here, let's go ahead and reverse the face color here so that it's white. Right click and select reverse faces. Let's do the same for the living room as well. Right click, reverse faces. And that way all of our outside faces are facing up. Next, the dining room has a different floor finish. So again, line tool. Let's just draw a line from this edge here, all the way over in the red axis, snap to that edge. And for the dining room, it ends here. Select tool, delete. And then we have our 3 separate surfaces. Let's do this for the powder room. And actually the closet here is the same floor finish as the rest of the living room, so we can leave that. Just going to erase this little edge here, clean that up. Let's take this face and delete it. And let's click on a top view. So as you can see, we can click on each of our surfaces to get a selection of each. Click off of this, click on the second floor, double click to enter second floor, and let's do the same. In this case, the hardwood floors in the master bedroom, the second bedroom, and the hallway are all the same, but the third bedroom and the bathroom are different. Let's take the line tool, draw a line from here to here, here to here. Let's just finish this line off here since there's actually a wall here. Same with this line here. Just get a better idea of the dimensions of the rooms. You can go ahead and just select the faces here and delete them. So now you can see this area here. Go back to our first floor. We have our areas there. Next, I'm going to show you a great tool in SketchUp to calculate areas. Calculating areas in SketchUp is really easy. There's a couple ways that you can do it. First, let's take the select tool and double click to enter a group. The first way that you can find out an area of a floor is by simply right clicking on it, going down to area, and then selecting selection. It's going to bring up this little dialog box, and it's going to give us an exact measurement of the area of that space. Now, another way that you could do it is with entity info. And this is actually the way that I prefer doing it. So go to Window, Entity Info. So you'll see Entity Info here. Remember, let's just close these other dialog boxes since we're not using them. So we have Entity Info here. Just going to single click on the face, and voila, gives us our area. Now what's great about this is I can hold down Shift and add to my selection and see how it's updating the number of faces and it's updating the total area. If I select the powder room and the foyer here, this is going to give me the area of my entire first floor. And you can use this area calculation in a number of different ways. I actually used this for the second floor when we were deciding how to calculate how much hardwood floor we needed to redo all of the master bedroom The paint bucket tool in SketchUp allows you to apply textures or materials to an object. The paint bucket tool is located right here. And it's going to bring up this dialog box here. Now the PC palette is a little bit different, but I'm going to walk you through some of the ways that you can use the paint bucket. First off, in the top here, you have this color spectrum or color wheel. That's just going to give you a generic color wheel that you can define your own color. If you don't like that, you can use the color sliders. So this is where you can input either a CMYK to match to an RGB value. You have a grayscale slider, and you have a hue, saturation, and brightness slider. Next is this spectrum, and I never can honestly say I've ever used this. Following one is just your simple color crayons that you can select a color from. Again, I rarely use this. The one that I use the most is this textures palette. Since we don't have any textures in our model, we just have this blank blue and white. And that is the default texture in SketchUp. So the white is the outside faces and the blue is the inside faces. And that's why it's showing like that. Now in this drop-down panel here where it says colors in model, SketchUp offers you a variety of textures that are already installed with your program. So in this case, I want to go to wood. And you can see there's a couple wood textures we can choose from. Now, very critical thing when you're applying textures is always make sure you're applying them inside the group so that you're actually touching the face. The reason why I say that is look what happens when we click on this wood floor that we like, say this first one. And if I just click on the hallway here, I'm outside of the group, remember? See how it applies it to every face of that group? Now that's good in some instances, but when you're using SketchUp with other plugins, specifically photorealistic plugins that do ray tracing or plugins that you need to export out your model into whatever application they're in, this is going to have a hard time reading the texture mapping of it. So you want to make sure whenever you're applying textures that you're applying them within the group, actually on the selection. So just go to Edit, Undo, click the Select tool, and now double click on the group, and now take the Select tool again. Importing textures into SketchUp is really easy. Let's go to the first floor. And in the dining room, I have a couple textures of my own that I'd like to import and use as materials inside this model. Just going to open Finder. And you can see here I have a bunch of different JPEGs of wood textures. And the one that I want to use is this wood one here. Now to import textures into SketchUp, first make sure, as we did previously, that we are inside the group and we can select the face. Next, go to File, Import. Make sure your format is set up as all supported image types and that the use is to use as texture. Now the one we want to use is this WDT_092C. Let's import that. You'll notice as we drop the texture or hover our texture into the model that it puts the cursor at one corner of the texture. As you hover over certain textures, you can actually feel it apply or sort of adjust to that area. We want to make sure we're on the ground plane. In this section, I'm going to show you how you can reposition textures in SketchUp. Let's take the select tool and make sure that we're inside the first floor group. Just single click on the floor texture there just to make sure we're inside. Go up to File Import, and we're going to select this file here, WDM_002_C. Import as texture. I'll support image types, and click Import. Now, instead of starting at an edge, let's just start in the middle of the floor here. Let's click once to start our import. And let's get the scale right on this. To do that, each plank we're going to assume is 5 inches. That would make the total width of this 25 inches. So let's type in 25 and press enter. With the floor down, you'll notice a couple things. One is we want the texture to line up to a certain point. And if you notice here, for example, it doesn't line up right on that edge. And typically you wouldn't have a piece like that. Also, notice that the pattern is running against the length of the house. So we want to reposition or rotate the texture. To do that in SketchUp, you simply need to right-click on the face, scroll down to Texture, and then select Position. Now, just to show you a couple of the other tools there, you can reset the position. That's if we make changes to it and we want to reset it. You can use projected textures. This is great when you want to take a flat texture and project it onto a curved surface. And edit texture image, I'll show you in a little bit. So again, texture position, and you'll see these 4 push pins with colors on them. Always start with the red push pin. That's your move pin. So you can click and drag this little push pin. It's going to allow you to snap it to a point that you want. So maybe we want this point here. The green So now that we have our texture in, we realize that we don't really like the color of it and we want to adjust it. Now there are 2 ways that you can do it. The first in this section I'll show you is right One last little tip when you're working with floors here is to hide the edges so that you don't see that line between the transitions of the two rooms. You can do that by taking the eraser. Now don't erase the edge because you'll lose the room. Let's undo that. But take the eraser and hold down Shift and then select the edge or click on the edge. You'll see that that hides the edge there, so you don't have that solid line there between your transitions of the rooms. Now we don't have the texture here yet, but we can do the same there as well as here. Another trick later on that we'll use is actually selecting and hiding the whole top edge for when we do the exterior. That way we hide the edge from the first floor to the second floor as if it looks like the entire exterior is one piece. That concludes this chapter, so let's take a look now at the ceiling and further develop the rest of the house.